Welcome back, everybody, to the Derby City Fandom podcast. We're back. Colin's back in the States.
Welcome home, Colin.
Welcome home.
You want to tell everybody where you went?
I was over across the pond on an island called Ireland. That was pretty fun. Had a good time. Was there almost 2 weeks.
Nice. Well, we missed you, brother.
We
Welcome
missed
home.
you. Well,
Yeah.
some of those photos were fun. I wasn't aware that. I guess they did part of Game of Thrones there. I figured all of that sort of stuff was done in like New Zealand or Iceland.
No.
Or
I saw 4 Game of Thrones locations. They were all pretty cool. Huge props to the builders for sets and shit.
Set design.
Set design. Thank you. It slipped my mind for a second, but huge props to them because, like, dude, it just blew my mind.
But yes, anyways, today we are talking about one of the newer series that has hit Disney Plus as of late. Honestly, probably one of my favorite over like the more recent Star Wars stuff, and we can get into that in a little bit. But we're talking Loki Season 2.
Episode 1.
Episode 1, our initial thoughts, and do we feel like it's already, I guess, continuing where it left off strongly at the end of Season 1?
Well, before we talk about that, let's talk about the Season 1, just maybe like a brief recap
Sure.
of what that was about. But I want to kind of jump into the Season 1 ratings, and then we'll get into the Season 1, like, just recap to refresh all of our listeners. But with the Season 1 rating, we had Rotten Tomatoes at a whopping 92%.
I believe it.
Very
Loki
high.
Season 1 was really good.
And an 8.2 out of 10 for IMDb. So, overall thoughts on Season 1, I'd say pretty awesome.
Pretty solid. I was going to go into it a bit later, but I can go into a little bit of it now.
Whatever you want to do.
I feel like the writing for Loki and just the chemistry between Hiddleston and Wilson is just phenomenal. It's some of the best writing that Marvel's done in a good while.
Not only that, the casting.
Yeah.
So it has a lot going for it. This Season 1 did, and we'll get to it, but I think Season 2 as well. I don't know the exact dates, but I would assume this is probably was financed and written and all that before Bob, whatever his name is, but the CEO of Disney. So I think before he arrived when it was the old Bob Iger days, which he's back now. But I would imagine the Loki benefited from before all that political and drama and all that, the corporate side of it got involved. So
yeah, they did.
it definitely shows.
At
It's
least
night
in
and day.
Season 1.
Yeah, it's night and day comparing this season to this series to a lot of other Disney Plus stuff that's released.
Yeah.
And to touch on that, I don't know if y'all realize this yet, but this is actually the only live-action MCU series that has a Season 2.
Yes. So much so that when you look it up on IMDb or just even on Disney Plus, like you have to just type in Loki. There's no like Season 2 attached to it. It's just like a subcategory.
Yeah, so I mean
It's a proper continuation.
that should go and show you that I think a lot of effort is going into this series.
How would you all describe the other thing I liked about Season 1 and this Loki series in general? Is like visually, it's so much fun to watch.
Absolutely.
Like I don't know
Yeah.
how you would describe. Like I kind of describe the TVA as like this 1960s nuclear power plant kind of thing.
kind of
I don't
the-
know.
that's kind of the
That's the vibe they're going for.
And
It's
I
like
just
this is
absolutely
like
love it.
50s, 60s, like just caricatures. Everything is, rounded. There are no hard edges in that entire plant. Like hell, just Miss Menace and how she like interacts and how she's just kind of like this old 60s cartoon.
Yeah, it has like this old 60s Cold War era vibe feel to it. And I just love it. I eat it up. It's so good. It's like kind of comedic and funny, but serious at the same time.
Oh yeah, like
It's
everything they're
solid.
doing is horrendously important to the greater MCU as a whole.
Well, Colin, you want to do a quick recap for everybody on season 1?
Oh, I'm doing it. Shit, I didn't have my notes on the recap part. Kenny, I think you're better at that.
Okay, so long story short, there are multiple timelines, and Loki is embedded in just about all of them. The reason why is because he's kind of able to avoid capture and kind of create his own timeline branch. Now, the TVA is this special kind of pocket outside of time and space group, as we were talking, very Cold War, like 60s vibe, where they just go through and they prune the branches off of the sacred timeline. Now, pruning the branches involves eliminating that entire timeline in its entirety. So they're eliminating, like, these multiverses just casually because they don't know any better.
To a different level.
Yeah, genocide on a level that would make Thanos cry.
Yeah,
right?
Pretty much. Yeah.
They are known as variants.
Yes. So if you go off the timeline, you become a variant and are thus a danger to the timeline. And this is where we have Loki kind of I'm going to say kind of persuaded. It was like either you help us with what we need or we erase you from time itself. And, not really much of a choice. But what he has to do is he has to find another version of himself that has been evading the TVA for an unknown amount of time, but several decades at least. And it is perplexing them why they can't find this Loki. So then they have to hire the Loki that we know, the Tom Hiddleston Loki, to find himself. And like, okay, only Loki knows what a Loki would think. Let's get this guy. So they make him a deal, and we then go on this rather fun adventure with probably one of my favorite, like, normal human beings, and Mobius.
Yeah, pretty much. He's probably my favorite part of the whole series, more so than Loki. Funny enough, is I love Mobius, and I love Owen Wilson in general. So
yeah, but yes, their writing that they've done between the two and how they just kind of go back and forth, because Loki is like, it is described as being mercurial. He's ever changing and all of that, very magic-y, and Mobius is very, like, half by the books, half I'm just going to kind of do what I need to do what I have to. And that makes for some fun stuff. So eventually, through some different time shenanigans, and they find the other Loki, and this Loki is called Sylvie.
She's hot.
Yeah. And then we get into the awkward bit that Loki falls in love with himself, but, Sylvie. And all the stuff that happens there. So they discover...
Very narcissistic.
Right. And they even talk about it. It's like, man, this is a level of narcissism that I don't think time has ever seen before.
I don't know. You should come see where I work.
I have. Anyways, from there, handful of other things happen, but then we basically get this idea that the TVA isn't what it seems to be. So that's what Loki and Sylvie are kind of doing on the side, while Mobius kind of tracks both of them down because they have both gone rogue at that point.
Yep.
And then we discovered that this person is at the end of time in his own little castle.
Mm-hmm. The person has a name.
Yes, he who remains.
He who remains.
Now, he who remains
in jail.
and a jail of basically his own making, and also in real life.
Is he in jail? Did they?
That's why that actor's not. That's a different story. That's a different rabbit hole. But in terms of Loki, he who remains is Kang the Conqueror, but he is the peaceful Kang the Conqueror. And what I mean by peaceful is that he is actively killing off all of his other, like, his infinite variants of himself through the TVA. But he has gotten bored. A person that can't die and doesn't age. I have to imagine you would get bored after a certain amount of time. And he finally got to that point, so he basically presented the Lokis with an option. Like, you can kill me and deal with the infinite number of other me's that are very warlike and want to destroy and conquer everything. Or you can kill me and take over the TVA.
Yeah.
And keep doing what I've been doing, but I pass on my curse of, like, you know, keeping myself out of the timeline perpetually in motion.
And that slowly leads us to season 2, right?
Yes.
So
where we get the answer of, oh, Sylvie's just going to stab the guy and just walk off. So she chose the option of, Kang the Conqueror coming through all the other timelines.
Pretty much.
And that's how we get to season 2 in a very big nutshell.
I absolutely love the start of episode 1 of season 2. Because they start where they left off, right? So Loki reappears, but it was just so fast paced, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
You didn't know what was going on. He was blipping in and out of time, and the special effects on that were great. And his acting, Tom Hiddleston's acting, to, like, you know, how do you, like, you know, act out getting ripped apart through time and space? He made it look very, very unpleasant.
I love that there's one conversation between him and Mobius where he's like, that looks painful. Is it painful? And Loki's like, that's not too bad. He's like, Mobius is like,
And, well, then it just, like, happens, like, immediately after that, and then he comes back with a witty comment, which is, again, pointing on just the good chemistry and the good writing here.
I've definitely noticed, pretty much from probably halfway, I guess, really, of season 1 up till now, a bromance between the two.
Oh, there's definitely a bromance,
and I'm loving it. I think it's hilarious.
Well,
I think there was one from season 1. I think when they first met, like, they were kind of, I think Mobius was very intrigued by just Loki in general. But I think now, to your point, it's blossomed into this bromance,
He's intrigued,
which is fun
but
to
also
watch.
Maybe a little standoffish as well, because like Kenny was saying, he's gonna play by the book, if you will. So he's not really trying to give him any attention. You know what I mean? But obviously, that's kind of
hard to do.
Blossomed since then, and now we're in season 2, and yeah, like you're saying, the beginning of the episode 1 was phenomenal. I mean, like, it literally just starts out kind of fast paced, literally them running, and then when I kind of just laugh, like when he's going, what happens? He ends up like falling into, like, I don't know, what would you call, like a taxi cab, and then the taxi.
Oh yeah, just like a space car.
Yeah, it kind of just goes into the freaking building, and he gets out, and then the car just falls out of the building. You just hear a thud.
Yeah, and then you hear the Wilhelm scream of the person after the car just plummets to wherever. Was there
a Wilhelm scream?
Yeah,
it wasn't like a proper Wilhelm scream, but that's what I always equate that sound effect to.
I know exactly what that sounds like, and I didn't hear it.
Yeah,
then, but I'll have to go back and listen to it.
But there's definitely like a. Like, the person definitely, like, screams as the car's, like, plummeting. You hear the thud. And then Loki's just like, oh, that person's fine. And then just continues on with the conversation at hand.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah, the start of the episode just gets, well, I'll speak for myself. It just got me hooked early on. So not only is it fast paced, the writing, the plot behind it is like, God, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Because we're caught up in the time slipping. So everyone's trying to figure out what the hell is going on with that. Like, is he in the past? He's in the future? Is this a different timeline? So we're all trying to piece together that puzzle. But all while, to Colin's point, is the writing so good that he's like interacting with all these different Mobiuses, and he's like, it's still fun to watch.
Every time he like slips back and forth, he has to confirm like which timeline he's in. So it's just like, hey, do you remember me? No? Well, crap. Okay, time to run. And then like the weird like times, how his time slipping is work is that he can like change locations in the past, and then like when he slips back to either the present or the future, like he's in that same location. So that's kind of a fun thing, because he's, as far as they know, he's effectively teleporting just throughout the TVA, seemingly at random.
Yeah, like teleporting is a good way to put it. Kind of earlier on in the episodes, there's one thing that jumped out at me that it goes back to the really good writing on this episode and this series so far. Was he has a conversation with Owen Wilson, his character, where they're talking, and Loki's just like petrified. He's scared. You can tell he's like terrified on his facial expressions. And at this point, you don't know if he's good, if he's bad, if he's actually trying to help out or trying to save timelines, or you don't really know what he's doing, which is another fun aspect of it.
Yeah.
But he tells Mobius that all the kings are coming. They're all coming. So he's like terrified. And I absolutely love that scene, because it was one of the few things in the recent time
that we got to see.
Well, it made me excited for the MCU. I was like, oh, cool. Like, this is building up to something bigger and better. Like this all king battle. And like, it just makes me excited for the MCU again. So that's one of the big things that not only did it get me hooked early on, but it's laying down the groundwork for something
to
come afterwards.
Off of that point, this has to be the most confusing thing ever. If somehow you did not watch Loki and then watched Ant-Man Quantumania instead first.
Yeah, it's one of the critiques that people are saying now with MCU in general, that it's kind of gotten out of hand, where
convoluted.
Yeah, you need to.
Well, there's an order, but if you don't know the order, then you're screwed.
Yeah, even if you're just seeing the movies, if you're just going to the theater and watching the movies and not watching the Disney Plus series, you'd probably be screwed. You'd be confused as hell.
It's a very good point.
But yeah. And the funny thing about that Quantumania is that it painted that particular king as just completely useless compared to like all of the other ones that they had to deal with. Like, hell, He Who Remains was more effective than the Quantumania king by like a huge scale. It makes me sad, because Kang is such a good character, and they just did him dirty by making him the villain of Quantumania instead of MODOK.
Well, it makes me sad that they have to replace the actor.
Yeah.
Because I think drawing a blank on his name. The actor
probably removed him from
they may have.
Kenny, insert here. The actor that played Kang. Boom, boom.
Yeah, photo.
Yeah, it kind of makes me sad, because I thought he portrayed that character very well. It made me excited to see where that character development is going to go, and what other kind of variants of Kang are we going to meet, and if he's going to be able to pull those particular characters off.
I'm sure it'll be fine. I don't think you have to worry too much about it, Colin. I'm sure they'll recast him really well. They've casted so far, for at least this series, pretty damn well. So
yeah,
I think they'll be fine.
Well, that's because it's also almost entirely like the same cast. Like, the only new person we have seen so far outside of like the minor characters is Ouroboros.
Yeah, can we talk about him now?
Yeah, OB, my boy.
He is the man. That's just another reason I love this episode so much. I don't want to say he's my favorite character. I still think that's Owen Wilson's role, but God, what a what a fun character to watch.
And it's weird, because he's presented as the guy that's just in like this random like basement room who fixes all of the things, right? But then as like the episode goes on, you realize that he's like, he might be the most important person in the TVA.
Oh, he's for sure keeping that whole engine running.
Yeah, which goes into, I guess, the big MacGuffin, the time loom, the temporal loom, the thing that's able to rip individuals out of timelines with a harpoon gun.
Yeah.
Well, before we get to that, I just love OB. I love this whole scene where they're going down the elevator and he pushes the very last button in the elevator to go down there. And Loki's like, "Are you sure we're going the right place?" He's like, yeah, I've been down here before. And then he had the first interaction between all the characters. And OB's like, "Hey, haven't seen you in a while." And Mobius is like, "Yeah, blah, blah," trying to figure out like one of those awkward moments that
Yes,
I don't know if I know you,
guess
but I probably
this
know
is
you.
like a side note is that the TVA, all of those people had their memories erased. So this is like legitimately what he thinks is the first encounter.
But it's just the whole room. Obi's character was so much fun to watch. You can tell, to Kenny's point, he is the one cog of the wheel that actually probably matters in this whole scheme of things. He's so smart. He wrote the book.
He wrote the book, which is the... So we're primarily covering episode 1, but episode 2 has come out, and they bring up the book a lot.
Yeah. I haven't seen it. I don't want to talk about it.
We're not going to talk about it. We'll do probably our usual, like,
Midway
and conclusion.
But the time slipping continues on, and this was another fun aspect of this episode because as Loki's going back in time, I think at that point he's going back in the past still.
Mm-hmm. He is.
And he's telling OB, like I don't know how you describe this, like in real time, like in the
it's
past,
like in pseudo real time.
in pseudo real time. Then like when OB's still talking to Mobius and like
in the present. The past OB is being told information.
Yeah, he's getting the thoughts put in his head. It's just so fun to watch.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
He's like, yeah, what was the tool, the harpoon gun that you called it, Kenny? I don't remember the name of it, but
it had a name, but it was basically like a fancy tether.
Yeah.
But it was a harpoon gun.
But where I'm going with this is, Opie's like, yeah, I don't have one of those. He's like, oh wait, yeah, dude, like it's on the shelf.
Yeah. So with that, they come to the conclusion that the best way to prevent Loki from slipping in and out of time, being lost to time, is that they got to harpoon him with this special device that Loki in the past asked OB to make, and then OB finds that in the future, and various other things. But the main problem that you are kind of alluded to throughout the entire episode up to this point is that something is horribly wrong in the TVA and like their little bubble in between space and time. And that is that because the branches are now just kind of growing out of control, that the machines that keep time and space in place are breaking. Mm-hmm. And basically it's up to Mobius, OB, and Loki to try to fix that.
Gungnir? Does that sound familiar?
Possibly.
Of the weapon.
Oh, I don't know. The harpoon gun.
It's a harpoon gun. I'm going to call it a harpoon gun. That
I was trying to. Oh, never mind.
No, that's fair. Chances are you're right. I don't remember. But you know, my brain is just forever. It's like, okay, this thing is a harpoon gun. But
Kenny, what did you and Colin?
Yes, I'm here too.
Kind of in the middle of the episode. I'll ask both of y'all. Kind of in the middle of the episode, so they're in that war room. You guys remember the scene where they're in the war room? The judges are there. The one judge is sleeping for some reason.
Yep.
And Loki in the past, so he time slips back in the past. He's in the same war room, but no one's there. So he kind of listens to the recorder on the wall, and then you hear Renslayer's voice.
Yeah.
So how did you guys interpret that?
I interpret that as that he who remains has been always in charge up until like, you know, his murder. But was always in charge, so he was able to kind of manipulate everything. So he was definitely around, and I would have to imagine that Renslayer probably only started to like change everything after her like realization at the end of season 1.
So was that the recording post season 1 as well?
Yes, because that particular voice line you do not get in season 1.
Yeah, that was just okay. So it's after. So this must be a variant Kang that he's talking to.
That is my fan theory.
Okay, Colin, do you have any theories? I was kind of confused on it.
No. I think Kenny kind of hit it on the nail on the head with that. That's kind of where I'm at as well. I'm curious though. Yeah, no, I'm just gonna leave it with what Kenny said.
Yeah, because I listened to that recording and you hear Renslayer's voice. He's having a conversation with Kang, you know, whatever Kang that might be. But I'm like, what the hell? So did she know the entire time? But maybe it doesn't sound like she did.
Well,
at least in season 1.
At least in the most of season 1, they do not know. Like they very much believe that the tribunal are like basically their gods that decide everything, right? But then at the end of season 1, I guess the big like spoiler moment, aside from He Who Remains at the end of time, is that their gods are just a bunch of robots on a throne.
Yeah.
And it's unclear whether or not those robots come up with their own decisions or if they're just played, like, you know, operated through He Who Remains, right?
That's kind of my impression.
Yeah, that's kind of mine as well, but it's not really described, so you kind of just have to come up with your own idea in that regard.
Maybe towards the end or like later in this season, maybe that'll be explained further, but yeah, that's kind of the impression I'm getting.
So that's like the side plot of I guess season 2 is that how do you describe to all of these people that have been removed from their own timelines and made to work for the TVA that their gods are dead?
Well, it doesn't go very well.
It doesn't go very well.
Because now, basically how I interpreted the whole episode 1 was, there's a lot of different plot lines going on, but one of them is there's basically a civil war taking place. Not really a civil war, but there's all these factions that have different beliefs and different views. And so you have one judge that wants to continue to prune and find Sylvie and do all this. Mm-hmm. But then you have also some people, what is it, Q15? Is that I don't know, whatever
one of the hunters, yeah.
One of the female hunter that she kind of knows, hangs out with Mobius. So you have a few of the hunters that are like, no,
B-15.
B-15. So we have a few hunters and a few people of the group that are like, no, this is genocide. Or this is what's wrong. Then you have Sylvia doing her own thing. And then you have Loki time slipping. There's a lot going on. But I'm curious to see how this plays out for these judges. Because they seem like they're divided on the best path forward.
Yeah, and then the one guy's asleep, so we get no opinion from him, which...
There's definitely a void in the power structure right now.
Yes. So... at this point in time, I suppose we can kind of move towards the end of the episode. We get that Obi tells basically Loki and Mobius the way to fix Loki's problem while simultaneously kind of also looking at like what's going wrong with the temporal loom. And we probably get my best like set of I guess set design details pairing up with writing lines where it's like they talk about how it's like, okay, if we can't pull you back from the timeline, you will think about going into a black hole and becoming spaghetti, right? And after that, we see them going to the temporal loom. And I noticed a little detail on the floor. You see some decals, some signage that says, so this is a quote here, temporal radiation leaks levels escalate exponentially beyond this threshold. Likelihood of spaghettification increases 7,000% proceed with caution.
Oh my gosh. Would you rather become spaghetti or have your skin peeled off?
And that's the big question. And oh my gosh.
Is anybody else hungry all of a sudden?
Yeah, it's for Italian.
Oh.
But so we get kind of another instance of the bromance where Mobius doesn't want to give up on pulling Loki out of his time warping shenanigans. And OB's just like, hey man, if I don't close these doors like right now, time itself is just kind of screwed. So if I have to lock you out there, I will.
Pretty straightforward, I feel like.
Yeah.
But spoiler alert, plot armor, they make it. So don't worry.
Yeah, plot armor, they make it.
There's still going to be other episodes.
But we get a fun little thing where Loki in the future is sent to the future this time instead of the past. This is the only time in that episode he gets sent to the future. Mm-hmm. And he runs into Sylvie, who's like in an elevator kind of thing, like kind of pulling the doors open. It's just like, oh, hey, fancy seeing you here. And then we see Loki get pruned.
Yeah, that's the next
But
theory.
we don't see who does it. He doesn't do it himself.
Do you guys have thoughts on that? Any ideas?
I think it might be Renslayer. Maybe in the future. Because it's the person has to be smaller than Loki because it happened behind him. And just about all of the hunters are all of these like 6'5", like fit motherfuckers that like, you know, go and like, you know, casually like, you know, wipe out billions of people.
Yeah, I haven't really thought too much about it. I hope it's someone fun. Like I hope it's OB or something.
Oh yeah, OB just casually commits murder.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it's not committing murder, so it's someone part of the plot, like they knew he had to be pruned. It happened perfectly, right? So
Right.
So it's definitely someone that's kind of on their side because they know that's necessary that he gets pruned right in that moment.
Yeah.
Here's a curveball. What
Sure.
if it's a Loki variant?
Yeah, I'm hoping it's something fun.
Oh, yeah.
A Loki variant or
That'd be
an Avenger.
fun.
I don't know.
That might have been my favorite part of season 1.
Like,
It's like
what,
at the
or
very
what if
end.
it like that?
Dealing with all
like
the
what
other
if it's
Lokis.
what if it's Loki
Yeah.
going to prune Loki?
Oh, like the child Loki who, like, when all the other Lokis are like comparing their different like reasons why they're variants, he's just like, yeah, I'm the Loki that killed Thor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Like that was a big deal.
it was a big deal.
Yes, and then you have the Gator Loki, probably my favorite. But
definitely up there for me.
yeah, I guess just in terms of season 1, the most important one was Old Man Loki, which
Yeah,
is a fun callback because the costume he was wearing was the original comic book design for that character.
nice.
So when he's just like saying it's like, oh yeah, like, you know, the I have had all the time in the world to like perfect my magic, and the only thing that he can like do in that particular moment was recreate Asgard in its entirety
I love
for that brief moment before
Yeah.
like that time beast wrecked his shit. But he was a bro. I liked him. That was a fun callback. That might have been why I like am so attached to Loki as a whole, like both seasons, because they appreciate the lore behind Loki, that he's more than just Thor's like occasional like rival villain brother.
I'm right there with you, man. I love it.
Yeah, a lot. There's a lot of tense drama that I kind of like. I'm on the edge of my seat for. I feel like most of the time. Now, funny enough, I'm laying down on my couch when I'm watching this most of the time, but I'm still like leaning forward and not just like casually laying back. But you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
You want to see what happens next.
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
Yeah, for
they've
sure.
done-
Yeah.
They've done
and
well.
it's, and it's also I made a note here. It's also kind of thrilling to know that this time his mistakes kind of have like real consequences.
Oh yeah, he completely did not care in season 1.
No,
for the most part.
Zero fucks given. But
Once he's been exposed to all of it, he's just like, oh.
Yeah, he genuinely seems scared of what's coming down the pipeline. Like the king, all the kings are coming.
Yeah.
So he genuinely seems nervous of, oh, shit. This might not end well for me.
Right.
So would you all say so far season 2 is definitely worth a watch, or the series in general?
Oh, for sure. The series is definitely worth a watch, and episode 1, yeah, it has me hooked. So I'm excited to see
Yeah, I am.
what's coming next.
Yeah, I am excited to see how they kind of develop some of these characters further. I do believe at this point they are working on episode 3 as of this recording. We'll date the episode a tiny bit. But just from what I've seen, it's like they're already making like good moves to make these characters seem interesting. Like OB is probably my favorite now. Like it used to be Miss Minutes because I just kind of loved like her like upbeat like 60s cartoon.
Yeah.
Like Steamboat Willie style stuff.
They brought her up. They mentioned Miss Minutes in the episode 1 here.
She's kind of a baddie now.
So I think she'll be reappearing at some point. I think she's going to have to play a role, I would imagine.
Yeah, she does. I have to imagine.
Well, you heard it here first. Derby City Fandom promoting Loki season 2.
That's right.
Or Loki in general, I guess.
Just Loki in general. Hell.
We have one last thing to mention about it.
Do we?
Did you guys watch the end credit scene?
Oh, no, I didn't even realize.
Okay.
For what?
For
Episode
1.
1?
Well, I won't spoil it for anybody, and I won't spoil it for the audience. We will talk about it.
No,
next
fuck
time.
that. Do spoilers.
No. I'll let you guys watch it. So
I mean, we've already spoiled the entirety of episode 1, so why would we not?
Just
spoil
go
the
ahead.
end
I haven't
of
seen episode 2, but
I don't have it right. I mean, I'm not wrong, correct? It's the end credit scene.
I believe so. Yeah.
The McDonald's.
Yeah.
That's the end of the credit, right?
I don't know.
Before it, but yeah, same difference.
Okay.
But the McDonald's in Oklahoma in 1982.
Yep. So there you go.
All right. Well, I'll definitely give that a rewatch before I watch episode 2. So
Fair enough. Gentlemen, do we have any other, I guess, fun fan theories? Any other comments just about season 1 even at this point? I think I've already enjoyed, like they've made time travel actually make sense.
Yeah.
Which is incredibly hard to do in writing because time travel is often like the lazy writer's way to just kind of get around plot problems.
what? Kind of like what they did in game. They didn't even follow the rules of time travel, even though they basically described, okay, these are the rules of time travel, and they broke their own rules. Yeah,
you can't do that. But at the TVA is at least consistent, which I enjoy.
No, I think they hit the ball out of the park with this one. Season 1 and the episode 1 of season 2. It's fun. It's hooked. I don't know how they pulled off the writing. Like, you watch this episode, and there's so many different plots and fun aspects going on. You know, we mentioned that there's time slipping, and there's like this civil war going on in the TVA, and we got worried about the kings, and there's just so much. And where's Sylvia at? And there's so much going on that it has me hooked. So I'm excited to see what comes down the pipeline.
Yeah.
Or the timeline, I should say.
All right, Kenneth, take us out.
All right. So thank you, everybody, for listening. We are Derby City Fandom. You can find us here on YouTube or your various other podcast streaming services. We are working on some things behind the scenes here that some of these two guys in front of me are not aware of, but they have some stuff to look forward to. And you all do as well, so give us a like, give us a follow, download the episodes as you see fit, and we will see you all next time.
Time.
Goodbye, everybody.
Deuces.